What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Alright, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Aram for the donation to the channel via the PayPal. Much respect to him for showing love once again to Too Raw for TV. Alright, so he had a question. And his question was, do I think that Rick Barry is the greatest small forward of all time? I have LeBron James, Bird, and Doc. And what do I think a prime Dr. J would do in today's NBA? Well, about Rick Barry. I do think that Rick Barry has become very underrated because I know when I was a kid, the three greatest small forwards in the history of the NBA at that time, they were called the three Bs. The three Bs: Elgin Baylor, Rick Barry, and Larry Bird. Over time, Larry Bird has stayed relevant, obviously. He had the more recent NBA career. Plus, his game, I think, translates more to today's fans. Shooting, great facilitator, great rebounder, great leader, won championships, the quote-unquote alpha male killer mentality. So he stayed more relevant. Plus, you have people who are in the media still who watched him play, though they are starting to get up there in age. With Rick Barry, another thing I need to mention as well. There's footage of Larry Bird, quality footage, high HD quality footage of Larry Bird, especially from the late 80s onward. There's game footage of him. There's proof. Whereas with Elgin Baylor, especially, for much of his career, there was no TV contract. And the NBA, for whatever reason, will not open the vault and put out game footage of Elgin Baylor with the Lakers from the 60s and 70s. They used to, but they stopped doing it. And with Rick Barry, what hurts him is that a lot, like for instance, the same thing that hurt Elgin Baylor. There's not a lot of game footage out there of him, though there is more of it. Because when Rick Barry was playing with the Golden State Warriors, ABC had the television contract, and then later on CBS, for the second or last maybe 5 years or 3 years or whatever the case is of Rick Barry's career. But a lot of Rick Barry's career was spent over in the ABA. So if you just look at his NBA numbers, they don't jump out at you as much. You know what I mean? They don't jump out at you as much. But when you look at his total resume, which I'm about to right now, then it starts becoming a lot more impressive. Give me 1 second. Now, of course, in the NBA, Rick Barry won a championship in 1975. And you might say, well, he just won one championship. However, that was one of the most impressive championships in the history of the NBA. Because Rick Barry, with that championship, pretty much was a one-man team. And that was against the norm at that time, because most of the great teams of the 70s, when you think about them, the Bucks, even though they had Kareem and Oscar, they did have a primary scorer, which kind of hurt the Bucks a little bit in some instances. But anyway, even though you had the Bucks, but other teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, Portland, Sonics, the Bullets, even though they had great individual players, for the most part, these guys went to college. These guys were used to sacrificing for the betterment of the team. That's not something that had to be persuaded in them, like players today who generally are used to being featured stars. Been that way since they were in grade school, coddled and not used to not getting the shine or whatever. But that Warriors team, it really was Rick Barry. Like, Rick Barry pretty much powered that team almost by himself. Now, of course, he had help, but really the only other consistent scorer that he had, if you want to call it consistent, was a rookie Jamal Wilkes, a rookie now, and what's the other guy's name? I think it's Mel Smith. We're forgetting his name. But they were both young. You know what I'm saying? They were both like first and second year guys. That's like Michael Jordan winning a championship with a rookie Scottie Pippen. I don't think that championship in '75 gets celebrated enough, let alone that he did it against the best Bullets team ever, the 1975 Bullets. Now, of course, they won a championship in 1978, but they were a little bit older then, and they had some injury issues. In particular to, I think, Phil Chenier and Bob Dandridge, who had joined the team by then. But in 1975, they won 60 ball games. 60 in a decade of parity. So that was real impressive. You know, he doesn't get enough credit for that championship. But of course, he also won an ABA championship. You know? And he doesn't get credit enough for that. He won an ABA championship, Rick Barry, in 1969 with the Oakland Oaks. So you look at his overall resume. He won an NBA championship in 1975. He was the Finals MVP, of course. He won. Matter of fact, Rick Barry is just one of three players, I believe. One of three players to average over 30 points a game, win a championship, and win Finals MVP in the same season. On one of three. The three guys are Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 1971, Rick Barry, and Michael Jordan. Jordan did it 4 times, averaging over 30 points a game, and winning the championship and Finals MVP. But Rick Barry also won an ABA championship, as I mentioned before. He was an 8-time NBA All-Star, 4-time ABA All-Star, which meant that he was an All-Star 12 times. He was the NBA All-Star Game MVP in 1967. 5 times he was All-NBA First Team. Was on the All-NBA Second Team in 1973. 4 times All-ABA First Team. He was the NBA Rookie of the Year, 1965-66. NBA All-Rookie First Team, obviously. He won the scoring championship in 1967 when he averaged 35.6 points per game, one of the highest scoring averages. And it's the highest scoring average ever for a Caucasian player. Led the NBA in steals in 1974-75. He's on the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. His number 24 retired by the Golden State Warriors. Matter of fact, Rick Barry is the only player in history to lead the NCAA, the ABA, and the NBA in scoring. Altogether, in his professional career, 25,279 points for a 24.8 point per game scoring average. He averaged 6.7 rebounds and 4.9 assists. And when you look at his peak numbers, which, man, you can almost go from his rookie year. I would say 1965, because he came into the NBA blazing, averaging almost 26 points a game. Man, I would say his best years were 65 to 75. During that time period, he averaged 28.8 points, 8 rebounds, 4.4 assists. It says 2.5 steals, but, for me, much of his career, they didn't track steals. Let's just go with that. 28.8 points, 8 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 2.5 steals, 46% shooting from the floor, 88% from the line. So that's another thing, He had a very unorthodox free throw routine, but, the guy was a great free throw shooter, led his league in free throw shooting, 7 different, no, let me see. Trying to see. He led the ABA in free throw shooting once in 1969. But he led the NBA in free throw shooting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times. So he led the NBA in free throw shooting, I believe that's a record, 7 different times. Now, Steph Curry may have broken that or be close to breaking that, but 7 different times Rick Barry led his league in free throw percentage. And it would have been greater. His numbers would be even better had he not missed the 67-68 season, which he should have, he desired to play in the ABA, but he was barred because the NBA sued him and said he was still under contract with the Warriors. So because he had to sit out an entire year. It wasn't for that, oh man, he'd probably be well over 27,000, maybe close to 28,000. No, I would say well over 27,000 points. So, and he did all that pretty much for much of his career without a 3-point line, at least in the NBA. So, man, just tremendous. One other thing that changed in this game, too, when Rick Barry was younger, he would drive to the basket a lot more. Not saying he was a great athlete, but he would drive to the basket more and was more of a mid-range shooter. As he got older, of course, he was already a great shooter, but his range got even better. I would say when he came to the NBA, he was remarkable from, I would say, 20 feet in. Eventually, he became a great outside shooter, one of the best outside shooters of his era, the best shooter of the 1970s, generally speaking. Him and Pistol Pete, but I would give it to Rick Barry over everybody. But what got better with Rick Barry playing the ABA was he got better with his ball handling. His ball handling got better, his defense got better, and his passing got better. So he actually became a better player. He also became better conditioned playing the ABA because of their style. The ABA had that frenetic up and down pace, even more so than the NBA. If you look at some of them ABA scores, man, 148, 144, 130. It's kind of like how the game is now, but even more exaggerated. So he became a better player. Now, do I think he's the greatest forward ever? I can't go there. I just can't say that he's better than Larry Bird or better than LeBron James. He doesn't have LeBron James' longevity, I mean, I know we get on LeBron James, man, but LeBron James won 4 championships, okay? LeBron James was able to win championships with 3 different franchises. That means something. And his longevity and his, not just the longevity, but his ability to play at a high level as long as he has, whether it's artificial or not, which we can't prove yet, that has to be taken to that has to be put in up into the conversation. You know what I mean? You gotta look at that. And Larry Bird, I think, just did everything pretty much that Rick Barry did, but better. You know what I mean? He was on par with Rick Barry as a free throw shooter, a little bit better rebounder, a little bit better facilitator. I think Barry was better at getting steals in the passing lanes, but Bird, when he was healthy, was a great help defender and an underrated defender. Barry gave effort, but he was never a great one-on-one defender, so I would give but he got better than he was earlier, when I think he was a bad defender. But Bird was just better. Better leader, won more championships, even more clutch, more accurate from the field, better outside shooter. He didn't have the greatest longevity, but yeah, I have to give it to Bird, man. And Dr. J, Dr. J is pretty much considered the greatest NBA player ever. And Dr. J had that star power. Dr. J was the guy that he didn't win a championship until '83. And you could argue, well, wait a minute. Well, Dr. J had a super team and Rick Barry didn't. You know, that's true. But you could also argue that Dr. J ran into some really, really tough teams in the finals. That Portland team that he lost to in '77, where they blew a 2-0 lead, that Portland team should have been a dynasty. They should have been a dynasty. And they would have been if Bill Walton hadn't broken his foot in '78. Then, of course, they had to play the Showtime Lakers. So, you know what I'm saying? You got to look at that, too, who they were playing against. But, you know, Dr. J, it was great for so long, man. The Michael Jordan of the ABA. If he was playing in the NBA today, I mean, look, what would he be? Maybe, I mean, I think that he would be better in some ways today, a younger Dr. J. He would be great in a situation, you know, where the game is more wide open. There's a lot of fast break situations. I think he would be great with a defensive guard running the floor who gets a lot of steals or, you know, things like that. I think he would be great. Now, I know there's an emphasis on shooting. And, you know, I don't know if Dr. J would ever be a great three-point shooter. That was not his forte. But that doesn't seem to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo from dominating. And Dr. J was definitely a better open mid-range shooter than Giannis. Giannis is very iffy from mid-range. Dr. J was, you know, for the era that he played in, not a great mid-range shooter, but if you left him open, he probably more than likely would knock him down. So with the lack of defense today, I think Dr. J would be offensively, I think he'd be straight, you know what I'm saying? And with the lack of rim protection that you have today, I see a lot of dunks with his first step, with his speed. I see a lot of dunks, and with his athleticism, creativity, I think he'd be on the highlight reels a lot. I think he'd be a superbly great player. I would like to think, though, that he would have gotten a little bit better at shooting from outside, but I don't know if he would be great. Maybe 30, 33% maybe from outside, 32%. You know, but I think what I think though, what I tend to think though, is that a guy like Dr. J, I'm tempted to think that he would work on his ball handling, right? He would work on his ball handling if he was playing today. I think they would work on his ball handling. And I think he might have to play the game like a LeBron in some ways, because Dr. J was a good rebounder and an underrated facilitator. I think you have the ball in his hands a lot, and I think they run the offense through him like they do Luka and LeBron, and I think he put up similar numbers, man. Except for he just wouldn't be a great outside shooter. I think he'd be more of a drive to the basket and kick it out type guy. I think they would surround him with shooters. Unlike Luka, Dr. J could play defense. Matter of fact, in 1976, the last year he played in the ABA, he was on the all-defensive team. So he could play defense. He was a stat stuffer. You know what I'm saying? He could give you points. He'd give you, like, in today's NBA, man, I know he'll give you 27 a night. I know he'll give you 8 rebounds. He's going to give you, like, 6 assists. He'll give you 1 or 2 steals, 2 blocks. He's going to shoot 50% from the floor in this era. He's going to shoot at least 78% from the line. And he's going to probably shoot 32% from 3 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So, and he's going to, I think, posterize a lot of motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? Rudy Gobert, you know, all these guys who think they can, you know, play defense, they're going to be on some posters if Dr. J is playing today. That's just my belief, at least. You know what I'm saying? That's what I believe. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say in this particular video. Tell me what you guys think.